Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voiced by Matt show. My name is Matt Bertho, and I'm your host. And I have a very special guest with us today, Emily Frisella. Emily is a boss entrepreneur. I get to see her open the Arete Syndicate calls every Wednesday. She is a mother of two amazing dogs, and she has multiple cookbooks, and she has a book that she'll talk about a little bit today. But Emily, it's been almost 5 years since I've known about the Frisellas. And
Mhm.
so it's kind of cool to actually have you on the podcast, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited that we were able to match up a date and get this going because I've been looking forward to doing this with you. So thank you again for having me.
Yeah. So this is all about how did you find your voice? And I'm sure, I've heard tidbits about your story, but
Mhm.
part of this podcast is something that we were talking about before we got on the actual call, which is getting to know people for who they really are and where they
Mhm.
really came from.
Yeah.
And so I would like to know, like, your a little bit of your origin story. Like, tell us about what was it like growing up as Emily Frisella, with mom and dad, and some of the challenges, some of the things you were involved with. Just kind of start there.
Yeah. And I think that is a great place to start because I think that obviously is like where it all happens, like those formative years. So I grew up on a row crop and cattle farm. My dad was an entrepreneur. He owned trucking companies and brokerage firms my entire life. My mom was a stay-at-home mom with myself and my two sisters. And my dad would get up early in the morning, go to the farm and farm. He would go to his office that was downtown St. Louis, which was an hour and 20 minutes from home one way.
Oh
He would run
man.
his companies and then he would drive an hour and 20 minutes home, eat dinner, and then he would go work on the farm again at night and then get up the next morning and do it all over again. And he's done that for, 50 years. And it's just something that, I always saw the entrepreneurship like lifestyle and what that entailed and what it involved. And I loved that. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that.
Mm.
So with being an entrepreneur, you can't just be some meek, quiet little person. And I was that meek, quiet little person because growing up, I was like the chubby, awkward kid, with the big, thick glasses and just like a little
What?
potato. Yeah, with a little potato with legs walking around, and I just, and my other sisters, like my younger sister was like really skinny and blonde, and my older sister, she was like
Come
busty brunette,
on.
and here I
What?
was kind of in the middle. And so I was naturally very, very shy. And I'd always been that way until probably, I would say, probably like high school. And because my mom always teases me that I would be the kid that would go over like when we were younger, like a toddler and things. And I would like peek around the corner and watch other kids play because I was too shy to like interact with them or
Oh.
anything. So, you know, uh, accelerate that, going through junior high and all that stuff. And, you go through the puberty and all that kind of stuff. I started getting taller and started thinning out a little bit and then getting involved in sports. Well, in high school, I got involved in FFA, which is Future Farmers of America.
Oh
Growing up,
yeah.
farming, small town farming community. I was very passionate about that. I got very heavy, like deep into that organization. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I was like president of FFA. I had like a state office, an area officer.
Oh,
I like
go
absolutely
girl.
loved. And I think that's really when things started to happen for me because, I'm always keeping in the back of my mind, I want to be an entrepreneur. So then when I was a freshman in high school, I was 14 and I got two jobs to start to save money because I knew I wanted to buy a house because my parents always taught us you buy, you don't rent. So I saved money to buy my first house when I was 19. And then I
Wow.
continued obviously saving and I bought my first building, my brick and mortar business and the property that went on. So I bought that when I was 20. And all of the skills that I learned in FFA going through high school is what propelled me to like gave me the confidence to start working and getting out there in the public to save money to do these things because through the school organizations, I was doing speaking. I had to travel and meet a
Yep.
lot of people. I was on like knowledge competitions and dairy competitions, and I was on a shooting, I would do like target shooting, competitions and things like that. So I got
Wow.
really enmeshed with a lot of different people and got a lot of really cool experiences. And I feel like I start to kind of build my intellectual Rolodex, if you will, of being able to really relate to different people and different paths that I met. And I really attribute everything to those 4 years that I spent in FFA because I met so many wonderful people and it really got me out of my shell because I had to do a lot of public speaking that I was once not comfortable with. But by the time, it took a year and a half to really get comfortable with it and fluid with it and kind of on the fly. And by my junior year, I was just rocking and rolling with it. And it just kept going from there. And I really feel those skills are what made me successful later on in my businesses because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense now. Like knowing what you guys do and you have the
Mhm.
farm and all the stuff,
Yeah.
like wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It was great. I mean, it's like I really had a great childhood. I'm one of those people that I don't think that entrepreneurs, you have to have this like sob story or this trauma story. Like I grew up my parents have been married. It'll be 49 years this year. Just very like they
Whoa.
still they still flirt like they're dating, you know what I mean? They're just like very solid people. So I'm so grateful for that because they also gave me the encouragement that I needed to take those steps, and they saw in me stuff that I didn't see in myself, which I feel like a lot of parents do. And the beauty
Mm.
about it is like my dad being an entrepreneur, he was able to see these things and not because he was my dad telling me that I had it in me, but because he actually saw it as an entrepreneur, like what he would see like in an employee or certain character traits and attributes.
Wow. So your FFA sponsors,
Yes.
did they have a big hand in like
Oh, yeah.
the cultivation of Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. In my latest book I just wrote called Relationships First, I wrote a whole chapter. Chapter 4 is dedicated to my FFA advisor, Mr. Inky, because
Oh.
he saw in me and pulled me aside one day. He was like, "Hey, he's like, you've got this." Like he saw leadership qualities in me, and it was different because I think we all know, when your parents tell you something or a family member, it means something, but you also think they're saying it because
Yep.
they're related to me or they're being nice.
Yep.
Whereas he was my advisor and I greatly respected his opinion because he'd been doing this forever. And when he told me that, it just hit a little bit different. And knowing like, you know what, he sees it in me and he's never even met me until
Mm-mm.
this year. So seeing that, I think played a huge role in it. And so I did dedicate a chapter to him. And then I actually, after the book was published, I reached out to his daughter on Facebook because he's on Facebook. And I told her, I was like, don't tell your dad, hey, but I want to send him this and blah, blah. And so I mailed
Oh.
him a couple copies of the book. And then his wife sent me a Facebook message and said that he got it and it really touched him and he got tears in his eyes. And this guy's like 6'6",
Oh.
big guy. So I was really happy that he was able to read what he did for me. And what's wild is it came full circle because I had wrote the book. It came out October of 2022.
Hmm.
And I was actually just this past in May 2023, I was asked by the current FFA advisor to come speak to the FFA group at my old high
Oh,
school. And it's the
that's
first
so
time
awesome.
it was the first time I'd gone back to my old high school since I had graduated. And he was actually in the audience. So I got to see him for the first time in like 20
Oh,
some years. So it was really cool.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great teachers that see that gift inside of us,
Mhm.
they
Yeah,
are very rare. And the fact
absolutely.
that he saw that in you and then told you about it,
Mhm.
man, what a great teacher.
Yeah.
Because
And
go ahead.
sorry. No, and that's the thing though, is like, it doesn't have to, it wasn't some like long production talk. It was like, a 5 to 10 minute, little chat, but it changed the whole trajectory of my life because of that. So, any of your listeners that are in a position like that, never ever keep a compliment to yourself or sharing what you see in someone, because that could be the one point that changes their entire life, that pivotal moment for them. You could do that, and that's why it's like one thing, I've always said is like, don't keep a compliment to yourself because it really can
Mm.
change people's lives.
So after high school, man, this blows my mind. At 19, you got your first house,
Mhm.
and at 20, you built your first brick and mortar business.
Yeah, so I bought a building. It was an old doctor's office in town,
Okay.
and it was a standalone building on like maybe like an acre lot. So I purchased that. It was on Main Street in town, and I purchased that. I opened a luxury flower shop, gift boutique. I did tuxedo rentals, wedding planning, like the whole
Wow.
shebang. And yeah, I had that for a few years, and then I sold it and moved to St. Louis. I learned a lot during that first year because, like I shared earlier, my dad was an entrepreneur. So I thought, and I'm totally an open book, pun intended, with my new book, with that, because I thought he was a successful entrepreneur. It was just like in my DNA, it was going to be genetic that I'm going to be just this
Oh.
amazing entrepreneur. And boy, was totally, totally wrong because I had a lot of trials and tribulations, especially the first like year and a half, because one, I didn't understand business. I didn't know it. I went to college on a scholarship. I didn't like school, but I
Mm.
had an academic scholarship and I needed to use it or lose it type thing. So I literally just went to college for a year and got my associates. I went 6 days a week just to be done with it and just like to use the free money essentially.
Yep.
Because I originally wanted to go to college to be an underwater welder because I had welded in high school and built
That's
trailers
so
for our farm and
badass.
stuff. Yeah.
God dang.
So I built trailers for the farm and for other farmers and things like that in our community. But the underwater welding program was a 3 year wait, and I didn't like school. So I knew I would not want to wait 3 years and then go back. There was a zero chance I was ever going to go back to school once I was actually like detached from it.
Yeah.
So I went for business management and horticulture is what I ended up going to college for. And I bought the building, opened my flower shop, and there's a lot of things that you don't know because I went for school for business management, but they teach you from a book. It wasn't taught by a professor that had actually ever owned a business. So there was just, the books were very antiquated. The dates of what he was teaching us were, from things from 10, 15 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And so I get into business and I made a ton of mistakes because I didn't understand, like vendor terms and, invoicing and like taxes and all this stuff. So hired a great accountant right off the bat. That is one thing you never don't want to mess up and get in the bad graces of the IRS. So
Mm-hmm.
I was taken care of there. But however, I really messed myself up financially because of me not understanding how the business runs. And not only was it a business, it was a seasonal business. So with flowers, you have your heavy seasons and your lighter seasons. You also are selling a perishable item. So
Oh
you have
yeah.
a very quick, you got a 2 day turnaround before that stuff is trash essentially. And you can't sell it anymore. So there was a lot to learn there, waste ratios and things like that. And one day I had an employee come to me and she said, Emily, like the bank won't cash her paycheck. And I had 6 full-time employees. And I was like, what do you mean? She goes, they say there's no funds to cash the check because she banked at the same bank that my business was at. So I took her paycheck and I was like, there's got to be a mistake. I took it from her, went to the bank that was only about a mile away. And I told the cashier, I was like, there's something wrong because at this time they didn't have online banking. The smartphones weren't existing. There weren't apps that you could just get online and check your balance. You had to wait for your bank statements at the end of or at the beginning of the month to get what last month's banks was, unless you called every day to get your bank balance. So I'd gotten like 4 months worth of bank statements. I'm like, I'll just balance my checkbook later. I don't have time because we were pretty busy. But again, I was buying all these products to have a really great like gift shop,
Oh
not
yeah.
paying attention to the terms. So I'm like writing all these checks out, thinking I have all this money in the bank. I definitely did not have the money in the bank. So when I was standing with the bank teller, she's like, "You have $46.82 in your bank account," and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, there's no way. So, and I was in panic mode because I'm like, okay, not only is it her check, it's my 5 other employees' checks, it's my vendors' checks. So I'm trying to
Oh.
quickly calculate in my mind how much that was because my software at the time was on my laptop that was at the flower shop. So I just was kind of calculating what I paid out. So I run home and get my savings account, withdraw the cash out, put enough in the bank to cover the checks that I knew were going to bounce from my vendors, and took cash to pay my employees. I called a meeting, told them all the bank had messed up. It's going to take a couple of weeks to get straightened out, which I'm bold-faced lying to them. And I'm telling them this, and I'm like, I just got to pay you guys cash for your paychecks that I just wrote you, destroy them, rip them up, and then I'll pay you cash next week till we get all this straightened out. And they just went along with it. And I was like sick about it in my stomach because I am like not a liar. I'm a terrible liar. I am like, I get very nauseous about that. And I carried that with me for years until my book came out that I actually like,
What?
yeah, that nobody knew what ever happened until the book came out. And so it was, 20 years removed from that business, or 17, something like that. And, then that's what had happened. And then, so I had to hustle mode, to get funds raised for the company and to cover these checks and to build back my bank balance. And so I had hair down to about my waist at that time. And I cut it off for locks of love to about my shoulders because at our small town, we had a newspaper. And if you like did something like that, it would make the front page of the paper because you're a business owner, you did this. So I would love to say that I donated my hair for charity, but it was really just so I could have
Emily.
free advertising. So on the front page of our newspaper, I called the paper and I said, what day is the highest circulation date? Because they printed it twice a week and they
Look
told
at
me.
you.
So I submitted the article and the picture when I knew it would be on the highly circulating date. And there's a picture of me with my little ponytail, you know, like, oh, business owner Emily, da 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 da. So I did this knowing that I would be able to market my business. And it went out to my town and also the 6 small towns around us that we all delivered flowers to. So that way I was able to advertise to 6 different cities by me cutting my hair off. And then I did a lot of hustle. I was like selling trash out of my dumpster and making dead bouquets with like spider webs around them for people's like 30th, 40th, 50th birthdays. Those things sold like crazy. So I was literally selling my trash to make money for my company. And within like 9 months, I had gotten high 6 figures back into the bank just by going full hustle mode, which was great. But looking back, I wish I would have been more honest with my employees and said, hey, you know, like I messed up, and been a little more transparent with them, because then they could have helped me hustle to be better. But they were all older than me. I didn't want them to think they were working for some dumb 20-year-old, because they actually were. And then also because, I didn't want them to fear their job, and I didn't want them to leave because they were all
Yeah.
amazing people. And so, it's just kind of like the live and learn thing. So yeah, that's
Well,
kind of,
what I think is beautiful about that is you learned a very valuable lesson, and you wrote a
yes.
book about it.
Yeah. Yep.
And
Yeah.
it's good that it kind of stayed with you for those 17 years before
Yeah.
you decided, you know what? I've learned this lesson. I don't want other people to have this issue. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to put this
Mhm.
story in there. And it's really healing for you too, I bet.
Yeah,
Like,
it is, because like I was able to get that off my chest in a way. And then, like with writing the book, it's like I'm sharing all these mistakes that I've done. So it's kind of, it's 9 chapters, but it's like I write it as like what the mistake is, what I did to fix it, and how people
mm,
can avoid it. So there's like lessons in every chapter of like what to do.
mm,
And it's just something that, it was very like therapeutic to write. And it was cool because it also pulled things out of me that I completely forgot, because I would say one thing, I'm like, wait, this happened too. So I'd like type this up, because it took me about a year to write the book, because it was just like going back and forth through all the things that I, had been through with this. But, there's a lot of lessons. Let's just say that.
man. So, you know, I know that you have had quite a journey in life.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about the personal journey, like the relationship
Mhm.
before Andy, and then what happened and how'd you meet Andy? Because I have some questions about like personally you, because we see you and you're so put together, you're so rock star to us, and you got it all together. But I know like there's definitely some routines that you have that got you to that point. So I want to get to that too. But I want to know like, because I've currently went through a divorce, and
Mhm.
it's one of the hardest things I've ever been through in my life.
Yeah.
But I want to know like, you're so confident, Emily, and strong in your delivery and who you are. And what's really crazy cool is I've listened to Andy talk, and I've listened to his business sense. But to
Mhm.
listen to you just talk about your business sense, you guys are like king and queen of entrepreneurs. I mean, you guys are
Well,
badasses.
thank you.
So
Thank you.
combined, it's like a superpower. I mean, it's incredible. And
Well,
and I
thank you
I
so much.
get it. I totally get that now. But I want to know like the hard stuff um that
Yeah.
like that you went through, and how'd you get through it?
Yeah. And, I think it's an important point, and kind of like what you had mentioned just, previously with like the book stuff, but then also this, ties together, is that, I think that every entrepreneur, when you see them, that you think they are like, superpower, like larger than life. The thing is, and they're sharing their struggles, is I feel like when you are able to share your struggles like that, it comes a point of confidence with that, alone. Because like with writing my book, it's like, I was confident enough now after 17 years of what I've
Mm,
established and what I've done to finally share my absolute mess ups, because you don't see a lot of, I don't want to say newer entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs that are newer in the game, let's say,
yep.
they're not sharing a lot of this. They're putting on the fake it till you make it type aspect,
Yep.
and not owning the mistakes, because they're not to a certain like point in their journey to be able to say, I messed up here, here, and here, and here. Like I messed up more stuff than I got right.
Yep.
And, it feels good to be at a point where you can actually like, I can put it out in writing for thousands of people to read that, hey, I mess up, and I've messed up a lot, But that was part of the journey is, it's having a solid partner that you can build with, because it's going to be, nitrous oxide to your engine, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
to make you move further. Because, when I had my flower shop, I was in a relationship and they were a great person. We just weren't great together anymore. And, they're still a wonderful person, went on and did things in their life. And it's just something that, that's why I sold my business, is because, it wasn't the support wasn't theirs,
Mm.
because you need someone that's going to understand the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship, of the hours you put in. I was working 80 to 90 hours a week, not necessarily because I wanted to, but this is before Instagram. This is before social media. If you wanted to market it, it was you. This is even before like email newsletters were like a thing. It was
Yep.
like pounding the pavement. And I was like a one-man show back end wise. I had my employees there to help with the day-to-day operations and like designing the things, delivering items, stocking shelves, things like that. But it was me being the face of the company, doing the marketing, doing the advertising, doing the accounting, doing the invoicing, all of those things. And, it's something, I came home one day and it was a very real, raw conversation. And it was just realizing that, we weren't compatible
Mm.
together for this life. And I decided to sell my business and I moved to St. Louis.
Wow.
And, it was there was not a lot of friction. There was no crazy blow up, nothing like that. It was just like we both understood, and we were both at that point like, you know what, this is time for us to part ways. And then, I moved to St. Louis. I went to work for a company, a graphic design company, and I was their account manager and ran their office. And I absolutely loved it. Loved the people, loved the business, everything that I did. And that's actually where I ended up meeting Andy. Is I was his bill collector there, because this was back in '06. Did you know this before? Have I ever told you this before? Have you heard
I
it?
think I
The grapevine?
remember some of it, but the
Yeah.
fact that you
So
just said I was his bill collector cracks me
yeah.
up.
Yeah. So we met originally back in '06. And then we were friends I wouldn't say friends. We were just like business acquaintances essentially. And he became friends with my boss, because my boss was an MMA fighter. And then Andy had two supplement superstores at the time. And he started sponsoring my boss with his MMA fights with supplements. And then Andy moved back to St. Louis, because he's originally from here. He moved back to St. Louis and took over 5 failing businesses here. There were 5 locations. It was one business, but it had 5 locations that were failing. So he took it over. So overnight, basically, he had 6 stores out of nowhere.
Whoa.
And so he came in to get a vehicle wrap on his truck that he had because vehicle wraps are a great way to promote your business. And he had came in and got it, and he couldn't pay the bill. And I was calling him to try to collect on it. And, he would just like say that, oh, let me get with the accountant. There was no accountant. He just couldn't pay it. And he's like, let me get on this and da da da. And I was like, I would call him like, hey, we can work out payment terms. We could do $50 a week, $100 a week, whatever it is. I just need some sort of
Yeah.
like show of good faith that this bill is going to be paid. And, then this is when MySpace was still around. And, I'd gotten out of my relationship and I'd been out of
MySpace.
it for 4 or 5 months or so. And I changed my status to like single. And he asked my boss, like, hey, what's up with Emily? She's single now. And then he was coming in my office twice a week at 3:30, because his lab was just down the road. So he'd stop
Hmm.
in to say hi to my boss. And he and I would like kind of just, chit chat and stuff. Again, like zero interest in each other, just again, like friends. But then we were both single, and we had just kind of chit chatted through like MySpace a little bit about business stuff.
Hmm.
And I remember we all went out to a happy hour like in June, and then he and I kind of hit it off. And then his birthday is 2 weeks after mine. And I said, what are you doing for your birthday? And he's like, I'm not doing anything. And I was like, well, you're not going to be alone for your birthday. Let's go out. And this is after like 2 years of him coming to my office twice a week and things and trying to
Wow.
collect and stuff. And we went out that night, and we've been together ever since. And then that week, we went on like 2 dates that week, I think. He told a buddy of ours that like, hey, I'm going to marry her. I'm telling you, because if I tell this to anybody later, they're not going to believe me. And then we were telling each
Whoa.
other like we loved each other already. And it's funny because at our wedding, we've been married, it'll be 12 years this month, or I'm sorry, this year rather. The guy he was a groomsman at our wedding, and he shared at the wedding like, hey, I'm telling you guys, like he knew, I got to tell you this because he knew he's going to marry her and all this kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And so yeah, we've been together 15 years and married almost 12 of them.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you shared that.
Yeah.
So I have 2 questions. They're
Sure.
both to do with voice, only your inner voice. So, there's a lot of people out there that they get these thoughts, people call them downloads or this inner voice, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, right? How did that voice show up for you, Emily, when you knew this is not working with this first relationship? I'm going to sell my business and I'm going to leave him. Like how did that clarity happen for you?
So it was kind of it didn't happen all at once. It was, this isn't really working. I'm going to put the business for sale. So I put the business, this is wild as well, because I decided one night, it was actually kind of a knee-jerk reaction to sell the business. It wasn't like very well thought out. It was, we were having a discussion. I wouldn't even say it was an argument, but we were just having like a discussion, maybe not even, I don't even say heated. It was just like, what are we going to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sell the shop because, I didn't want to be chastised or nagged on for working so much when I'm working. And that's why I think I'm so like very adamant about people whenever you have someone in your life that's an entrepreneur and the other person is nagging at them or dragging them down, like you're working too much. The point of I was working towards a life that provided for both of us.
Yep.
So that is my main gripe with people, is whenever they say like, oh, my husband has a business, but he works too much. He's working for a life that you are a part of, that you are also benefiting from. So let's be supportive here.
Yeah.
So it was, I didn't feel like that support was there. And again, he was a great person, but just not, not compatible together for what my goals were and what his goals were. And so I decided like, hey, I'm just going to sell the shop. And it was like, okay. Because my thought process was, I will sell it, see how he and I work together after that before I make the move.
Whoa.
So I decided to sell it. And I called my realtor. She came and evaluated it, gave me a price on it, told me what it was worth, and went through my accountant to figure out what it was, the business side, in case somebody only wanted to buy the business, in case somebody only wanted to buy the property in the building, whatever. I sold it as a package deal. It sold 3 hours later. It was insane. So I exited my company within 3 hours of signing the paper. Like the ink wasn't even dry on the real estate paper.
Wow.
Because the real estate agent knew some people that were looking for businesses, and they called them. They're like, yes, I want that business, because they had been a customer of mine for a long time. And so then after the business sold, I got divorced about a year after that. It just continued, just like, our long-term visions just didn't align. And, cause we dated in high school and things. So it was just kind of like, it's a different mindset than in high school.
Oh, yeah.
So then, so I gotten divorced and everything. Like I said, it was clean, amicable. We both were adults about it, moved on. And, and these downloads that you're saying, like how that happens, it was, my thought processes was, well, if the business is what's standing in the way of us having a relationship, I will get rid of that and see what happens. Then I realized, okay, it wasn't just the business. But looking back, I am so beyond grateful that I did sell the business, because it led me to meeting Andy. And, we just had this like wonderful, amazing, marriage. And we just like are so supportive of each other, but we also stand alone in our own entrepreneurship journeys.
Yeah,
we're
really
not.
Do.
Yeah, I don't ever, he's done so much, and it's just this like larger than life powerhouse person in all aspects. And I just have always wanted to, like, whatever I build, I want to know that like I built it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I want to be Emily Frisella. I don't just want to be Frisella's wife, Emily.
That's right.
Yes.
And
so
I want to give you acknowledgement and some love, because you were the one that told Andy, hey, you're not going to spend your birthday alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
fun to ask him out. I just was like looking for an in, maybe. Cause I was like, me out. So I just had to do it.
Yeah. And it's like, you knew too, you're like, okay, I got to be with this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, we always tease about that, because, he was like, he goes, what the heck? He's like, I was $70,000 in credit card debt, because he had his businesses. So it wasn't frivolous spending. It was like inventory for his company. He goes, I was overweight and $70,000 in credit card debt. Like, what the heck, and he just tease. And, he's just such a good human, at like the heart of gold, and like does so much for so many people that people don't even know about. And he just, all around just like a wonderful person, and just like the most supportive partner I could ever ask for or wish
you
for.
guys are both visionaries too, because I'm hearing you talk, and I know that, Andy talks about his piece of paper with the building and the
Yes.
helicopter on the top and all
Oh
that, right?
yeah.
And
Yes.
but there's so much play in you guys' relationship too.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
that that is so necessary.
Yeah.
But how, I have so many questions, but the vision part, right? Because I think that's a big part of being a successful business person is the vision, the big vision, right?
Mhm.
And to be with him, I mean, the visionary, you're a visionary, like how do you know when you have a vision and you want to act upon it? I think this is something for the audience to listen to, because this is about listening to your inner voice and speaking it out loud. I've said a lot in my life. When I wanted to get healthy, I yelled at God, I want my health back. I want my
Mhm.
health back. And then
Mhm.
eventually I lost a weight. And then I was like, okay, I need to level up. And then Andy made up 75 hard.
Mhm.
But there's these visions that we're given that we speak out loud. I want to know, like, how does that happen for you, Emily? Because you guys live in the coolest freaking house of all time. You have this beautiful, like, following of people that are authentically real people that are looking up to you. Like, was this all a part of the vision?
Yeah, absolutely. Not necessarily, I honestly just say like not necessarily like the following, because again, whenever everything started for Andy and myself, social media didn't even exist, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But everything else that you described through like with Andy, and like I even talk about that in my book too, because like where our first form headquarters is at, he had said to me when we were dating, like, oh yeah, our world headquarters is gonna be right here, blah, 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 and pointed it out. Well, we're like a quarter of the mile down the road from where he told me that was going to be. And that was 14 years ago. He told me that 14 or
Wow.
15. We had only been dating for a little bit when he told me that. And so that was, and we built our first building there in 2020. So, it's that man, you guys hear like manifesting, you have our vision board,
Hmm.
so we have our vision boards, working on, visualizing is huge. We both do that every single day. I've always done that. And it's like, it's kind of wild because you practice this
Hmm.
and you visualize things happening, and then pretty soon they start happening, and then when they do that, it's almost a domino effect, and it's almost like so fast. And then sometimes I'll catch myself like, how did this happen? I'm like, wait a second, this is what I started thinking about 6 years ago and it's happening now, and it's just, like, just so there's so many like things that have happened in our lives. Like even Andy says that with me, because he knew me, he had met me, and he had always, why does this do this thumbs up thing?
Yeah, I don't.
But we had Brantley Gilbert at the house the last week, whenever after he was on the podcast, him and his wife and his manager came over to hang out and have dinner. And, Andy was telling the story then, like, he's like, he didn't necessarily want me. He wanted a girl like me. And then he ended up getting me because he
Mm,
saw my action. And the same thing with Andy. It's like, I wanted a man that was, strong, independent, had his shit together. And that's what I got. And it's like, the more we think about these things, we're telling the universe, telling our God, everything of like, this is what I want. This is like, and this is what I'm going to do to be, quote, deserving of this. And, it's not just you
mm,
wishing and hoping. It's like, you're actually putting in the work that's going to make this things happen. So like, oh, I want to have, the biggest, beautiful, iconic headquarters. Well, it's like, it's the steps you take to get to that point. But, for me as an individual, like what that looks like, it is just, it's visualizing, it's really thinking about that. And I pray every night and I pray every morning as well.
mm.
And I don't pray for things. I pray out of gratitude for what I've been gifted. Like something I
Yes.
say every single night is like, and Lord, if I wake up tomorrow and I have nothing more than I've been given today, I will be grateful. I've said that
Mm,
every single night for probably 16 or 17 years, because it's expressing gratitude and thanks. Because if you think about the way people pray, and not trying to get religious, but if you
no,
think
I
about
love this.
pray, most of the time, the way that they're praying to their God or whatever it is that they believe in, they're praying for something. They're asking for something. They're praying only when they need a want, instead
Yep.
of, thank you for giving me the air in my lungs and, a roof over my head. They
Yep.
don't pray for their comfortable mattress, for their food on their table.
Nope.
They're praying, God, I want this. I want a new Lexus, or God, I want a
Yep.
new big house or a new this,
Yep.
but they're not putting in the work for it. They think it's just like a wishing tree essentially.
Yep.
But when you're able to express the gratitude, and I'm not a big like journal or anything like that, but I do have a gratitude journal that I write down 3 things every single morning. First thing I do of what I am grateful for that day. And it just sets the tone and also instills in me that mindset of like, okay, go through your life, go through your day expressing the gratitude and more will come to you. You know, it's like what you seek, you'll always find. If you're seeking gratitude and good things happening in your life, that's what you're going to get. But if you're in this doom and gloom state all the time, that's what you're going to get.
So, Emily, I have a question about the visualization practice that you do. If you could share that, like what is it that you actually do to visualize?
Yeah. So my thing is I actually do it usually like midday to later day. And I usually will wrap up my work, my team will go home, and then I will sit and think about what I want in different aspects of my life. That is business wise, relationship wise, community wise, family wise. And I think about those things in great detail.
Mm.
And, it's something that I kind of did it before very loosely, but I didn't understand the nitty gritty of it until actually Andy taught me how to visualize properly, I'd say, because if he visualizes it, he sees it. If you said that, he and I are both visionaries. He is like the Dalai Lama of visionaries. Like it's wild the stuff that like how he not only like his vision for where we're going, what's happening, but also just for seeing what's going on in the world,
Yeah.
He's very, very gifted at that. It's one of his like best gifts. Go ahead.
I have a question
Yes.
about your visualization practice and then also what you've noticed with Andy. Because I know that when I have emotion, like excitement, or I feel excited about it and I'm like feel love and whole and joy, when I attach that to the vision, it seems to happen faster.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to feel that passion to do it because, like it's like, if you just say like, oh, I want to have this. If you say it blindly, there's no meaning behind it. Like think about if you're with your spouse or your partner and you're like, I love you. It's
Oh,
pretty flat. But when you can tell when someone says, I love you, and there's actually like
yes.
meaning behind it, it's more
Yes.
impactful. So it's the same thing with your vision. You have to say it with that passion of like, and with certainty that you are also going to get it and you're ready to receive it and you're
Mm.
expecting that. Because if you don't ever put the passion in it to know that like, I'm going to get it, it's just a matter of time. If
Mm.
you don't have that belief in it, it will not happen for you. And it's not just something you think about one time. It becomes obsessive thought that you have time to think about. Like mine is like starts at like after work, I close out and then I think about like, I kind of recap my day internally and think about it. And this is usually when I go and like work out. And that's where I will do my visualization at, it's like,
Mm.
okay, I want to find a new building for the business and I want it to look like this and this and this. And I did that. And it's like, things just happen. And like, probably, I don't know, a year after I started this, I had this exact building, what I wanted in it, and everything else happened, but the lease fell through because the guy couldn't get his lease done to move out of it. So it didn't actually fully happen yet, but I'm still thinking about it constantly. But it's just wild because I'll tell you, this is a very small, like little snippet, but so the building I wanted came to fruition a year after I
Yep.
had thought about it. Then I was like, oh, I want to have a gym in there. Well, then suddenly this company sent me a set of weights for no charge at all, just because they wanted to send it to me. I had another
Okay.
company that I had sent to my sister. It's like a stair mill, but it's like a compact one. I was like, oh, we need this for the new building. And then the owner of that company reached out wanting to send me one for no charge. It's like all these little things just started happening. Like, oh, I want to have this there. Then I had another company reach out and be like, hey, if you ever move into a facility, we'd love to come in and design something. And like, I had all these little things that I'd been thinking about for a year. So that's kind of like in a business scope of just like little things. And it just was like, I text one of my girlfriends. I was like, this is wild. Cause like that was something where I was like on a roll with things that were happening. And it's really just being intentional. Like with everything in life, you're going to have a higher success rate if you're intentional about it. That's with your visions that you're doing. That's with your relationships, it's with your family, business, every single thing. So I just visualize it in hyper detail, what I want. I don't put an end date on it because
Good.
I know I'm going to get it sooner or later.
Yeah.
So I don't put any sort of like expected due date, I guess you could say.
And what I've noticed too with this is it's always better than what you actually visualize.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think that when you do it with passion, with gratitude, and with intention, you always set yourself up to receive more than you actually ever expected. It's just like
Yeah.
you're ready to be overwhelmed with it whenever you
Yeah, I
go.
love that.
Yeah.
Yes, Emily.
Yeah.
So do you say it out loud? Do you say I'm going to have this, I'm going to do this?
No, I keep it all inside. I don't
Really?
journal it. I don't write it down. I don't do anything. It
Do
is
you tell
all here.
Andy?
Mm-mm. I keep
No.
all of it in my mind, and I write it out. I imagine it in great detail.
So you do write it
I
out.
Yes, oh no, sorry. I write it out in detail in my head. I don't write anything down. I have a big
Oh, so
board. I
it's
put
just
pictures on. It's all in my brain. And then, like what I'll do is I do look at things online that associate with that. So I plant pictures in my mind. So like
dude.
on Pinterest, if it's like how, the kind of office I want to have, I'll look up, this type of office style or design, and I'll look at pictures, and that helps solidify it in my brain, the visualizations that I'm seeing. And then
Mhm.
I'll also print those photos out and put them on a vision board. So it's a constant reminder to me. So like I'm, almost like ingraining that in my mind, but then I'm also seeing the visual reminder. So that way, every time in my office, I'm like, oh, there it is. And
Wow.
it's a constant thing to keep my visualization going and reminding me, even though I'm not currently practicing active visualization at that moment.
Wow. So, for everyone that just missed that little part of this podcast, you should go back and rewind that and take notes because she just broke it down. She does it every day in the middle of the day when everybody leaves. And there's a process. I mean, I can see it. I can feel it. Like there's a process that you go through that it's
It
very
is.
satisfying.
And everybody's will be different. Some people might just visualize a certain type of, a certain lifestyle or family, you know what I mean? Like type of family. When I say lifestyle, I mean family.
Yeah.
What do they want there? Or the type of relationship, the type of partner they want. If you're an entrepreneur, it could be the business. Or if you're looking, if you're in a career, it's how do I become a stronger entrepreneur in the career that I'm in? So there's visualization is not just for business. It is for every single aspect of your life. And the thing is that you'll really find it almost becomes therapeutic to you because you will realize that what you're tolerating stuff that does not align with your grand vision
Oh,
you're seeing in your
wow.
head. And then you'll really do some like reflective work and realize this is not serving me. This is not the season of my life. This is something I need to let go because it's not aligning with my grand vision. So it's a really good way to kind of audit what's going on in your life currently with like relationships, business wise, things like that.
Wow. Man, thank you for breaking that down.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I want to know where are you going now, Emily? Like what's the next adventure for you?
So I have a new company that I'm going to be launching hopefully in March or April. It's gotten pushed about 3 or 4 months down the road, just waiting for all inventory and stuff. So it's called Potty Mouth Papers. It's basically bringing like it's flushing political correctness down the toilet is the tagline. So I have the paper and plan company, which is like luxury stationery and planners and things like that. But I wanted a very fun, silly,
Oh, I
sarcastic, and
love
like you
it.
guys know me, like I'm just kind of like sarcastic, and that's just like who I am. So it brings that to life. So I have that company launching that we've been working really hard on getting all the inventory done and photos done, website, all that kind of stuff done. So that's the next thing that's on my docket. And then I also, as you know, run Andy's personal brand as well. So, and those companies that we have under his personal brand. So I've got a lot of stuff coming up for that this year that I can't really talk about right now, but
That's okay.
2024 is just a lot of good stuff happening.
Well, I think it's great timing with the election year and everything. You
Yeah.
bringing in all that out. I think it's
Yeah.
brilliant.
People really they need help now more than ever, just because there's no guarantees in anything, but the best thing you can do is just be very like proactive instead of being reactive. So I think that's where what's really important with your content, Andy's content, everybody out there is trying to help others. I
Yeah.
think now is a time for consumption of that type of content more than ever because
Wow.
people need to really get their mind right and understand that like you are in control of what you do and what happens. And I think there's so much on social media now it's horrible. I think social media is it's reached its peak. Because I feel like there's just
It's
so much
so
negativity.
fake too.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
it's just
Yeah,
scammy. Yeah,
it's so fake, it's scammy, it's just people money grabbing.
I want to bring this up because I didn't know if I would bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up. I have a client. Do you have to go right now?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
No.
good. So I have a client that is new to Arete, all right? And he reached out to an Andy Frisella that was impersonating Andy on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And he's my client and he was hurt and pissed about this fake person that was impersonating Andy. And I told him, I was like, dude, they're all over. Like they're literally all over.
Yeah.
And so you're on the money, man. I
It's
mean,
terrible. It's funny because like actually, I don't know if you saw Andy's Instagram story last night. He addressed that because there's a lot of people. There's so many fake pages. 'Cause
oh,
I had someone in Arete as well. It might be the same person, but they posted screenshots, I think, in the Arete group, or maybe it was a 75 Hard group. I can't remember. But I took screenshots because, and they were like, they tagged me in the post to let me know like this was going on. And you know what's bad about it is like currently, I think I have 11 or 12 fake pages of people pretending to be me on Instagram, and you would never know it. It's like maybe a space between my name or three L's in my last name. And I reported all of them. People have reported them, and Instagram won't take it down because it says it's not against their community guidelines. And so it's like, again, it's like then you have these people and people don't know what's true. Or like what I've observed a lot is just the negativity about good things. Like I saw a video the other day about a woman showing basically how to get your kids off of technology, little activity. And it was her toddler, probably 3 years old. She took painter's tape and put it against her wall in little strips, like parking spots.
yeah.
And the little boy was playing with Tonka trucks and he was parking his cars in all the little parking spots she made, kept him busy for a long time. And I go to the comments and it says, one of the comments that first popped up was, "Hey mom, don't mean to scare you, but this is what's going to cause your kid to have ADHD because you're teaching them to be hyper organized and obsessive." Well, then
What?
like, yeah. And then I see another post. This is all like in the last week or so. I see a post of this guy that's like posting videos of his house and they have like 4 kids. His wife is a stay-at-home mom. Or no, she worked, but she tried to do everything at the house by herself. And he was like, "I'm going to surprise my wife while she's gone right now and clean the whole house." So
Oh,
he cleaned the entire house. It was spotless, looked great, just to help her out. Cause he said, like, anytime I ask her to, if she needs what she needs help with, she'll say, "Don't worry about it," or "No." Go to the comments and there's some lady, some girl that's all mad saying like, "Oh, just another thing of, guys thinking they did something great whenever women have to do this all the time." It's just like, there's just so many things, it's just like, there's a countless ones because I actually
and
had
I've
5 in my
dealt with
brain.
this. I've
Yeah.
dealt with this.
And I'm just like, it's just terrible. It's like, how about just saying, you don't know their situation. You know what I mean? Like it could be like, maybe he travels a lot and can't help her. Maybe you don't
Great
even know.
job. Good for
He's just
you.
saying
Way to
like,
go.
because like, you know what, maybe he's inspiring somebody else to like surprise their wife or vice
Yeah.
versa. Or like, and this mom trying to show different ways to get their kid off tech. And it's like, now you're saying she's going to give her kid ADHD. What do you think a tablet's going to do? You know what I mean?
Oh
It's
my
just like,
gosh.
it's becoming just like gross to be on social media. I'm on it
Well,
maybe about 30 minutes a day, unless I do like, because I mainly just hang out in DMs a lot and respond to people, but it's just too much.
well, and what I love is you're closing this out with a challenge to the people that listen to actually show truth and speak truth and quit hiding and like
Yeah.
we need
It's
people to talk about the good things.
it's honestly amazing what happens when you do that because, I've had Instagram for probably 15 years. I don't know how long, but I actually got Instagram when it first came out just to put a bunch of pictures on because there was an app. I wanted to make Andy this cute little desk calendar for every day. And the only way they did it was through Instagram pictures. So one day I opened an Instagram account. I had to upload 365 photos I had just so this app could hook into it so I could order
Oh
him this
my
calendar. And then
gosh.
I deleted them all. And then and then I just still had the account. And then Instagram actually like caught on because I had Snapchat before because that's kind of how I built my following when I was doing my first cookbook was through Snapchat. And it was just about, like providing value and stuff. And those people kind of like, they came over to Instagram whenever I left Snapchat and stuff. But, it's about being truthful. And whenever you're actually like
Mhm.
transparent and authentic, and I
Yep.
mean true transparent, authentic, because I
Yep.
feel like people try to be like fake, authentic, or transparent and just end up being like the victim Olympics and just whine
Yep.
and crying. But when you share things like, some of my most popular posts are when I make my lists of things, just like
Yeah, I
little
love those.
advice. But that's what's going to get, make people like attracted to you and follow you and engage with you is because like, if you're that way now, and this is not to toot my horn at all, it's just anybody that does this, that is refreshing to people now more than ever on social media because
Mm.
besides seeing like boobs and butts or like, celebrities everywhere or negativity, there's not a lot in between there. It's just,
Yeah.
it's very beneficial if you can do that to help other people, because then
Yep.
we can change the trajectory of like how social media will be and how society will be just by being ourselves and being honest and being open.
Yep. That's what I'm teaching people to do, how to
I
find your
love that.
voice.
Yeah, you're doing good work.
Thanks, Emily. So I want to end with these 4
Okay.
questions. All right. What do you
Okay.
love more than anything in the world? What do you love?
My dogs.
Oh
No,
boy.
I would say definitely I'm a very family oriented person. So I would say my family and my dogs are definitely included in that.
Oh, how are they
Yeah.
doing?
They're awesome. They're
Good.
so great. They'll be 11 this year and they're just healthy little hams.
Oh yeah. Okay, next question. What makes you tick? What gives you joy?
Okay, if I'm being completely honest and not trying to be all inspirational and stuff,
Yes.
organizing. I absolutely love to organize anything. It's instant gratification for me. It controls my mind whenever it's chaotic. Because I feel like that is one thing when you do that, you have an instant gratification of what's going on.
Yeah.
So that's just the raw answer. But if I would say actually like what really does like drive me, it's really the impact. Like my Women in Business workshop is one of my most passionate things that I absolutely love. I do it annually, and it's something where I
Yep.
really get to like connect with the ladies. And it's not necessarily, it's not just the event, it's what follows after that. Like women,
Yes.
I love the emails from women saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to come." Like we have a sponsor this year for the event. And she said that she's like, I cannot think of a better organization to sponsor the event because this is what gave me the guts to start my business and to get where I am today.
Wow.
So that I would definitely say like from the business side standpoint, like real, like where it's impacting other people, definitely be my Women in Business workshop for sure.
And when is that going to be this year?
July 14th through the 16th.
Okay, cool. Because I know some people that are going to come to that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be great. Yeah. Tickets go on sale March 15th because we sell the tickets pretty early. A lot of,
Ooh,
as
I
you,
have
yeah, it's
I have to
early.
get the I have to get the this podcast out early so
Oh,
people can
no,
be
you don't
like,
have to. No,
ooh,
it's all right. No, I'm just, yeah, we just do it early because we do a lot of like personalized, like special things. So we have to know like who's coming pretty
yeah,
far in
yeah.
advance.
Okay, third question. What are your purposes?
My purposes is definitely impact. I want to help people break out of their shells
Mm,
and to live the life, their life to their truest self because
hmm.
I feel like, luckily I found this in high school, but I think, if I was able to, help younger students, like I'm speaking at my niece's high school next month for young women that want to have a business and things.
Mm,
So I think my purpose is to really start to help the younger community. I really want to do a young women in business event each year to help the younger people because I feel like that generation is really going to suffer because of the generation after you and I, like the Gen Zers, like the kind of not that they're saying they're not hard workers, but they're just becoming. We see them all over, social media
mhm.
and stuff. They're just not. They're too much into the tech world. So I want to get back and really help these younger women to be successful and to give them the confidence. So that's definitely a purpose. Also to, continue to work with my girls, my team that I have a paper and plan company and Potty Mouth Papers. I want them to live the life of their dreams as well, which
Yeah.
is what my goal is with that is, that's a business that, I started in 2020 and I hired my sister who worked in the law community for 16 years. I hired her as my COO. And then I hired a few other girls that I had that work for me with that. And I want them all to live like an amazing life. Also, I want to work with animals. So 15 years ago, I bought a domain for a dog rescue, and that's something I really want to do. I say like when I have time, but make it more of a priority. So animals are definitely a passion of mine. Like that's
Uh,
probably why I have Instagram because I just love watching like animal reels and videos.
oh my gosh. And the last question is, one we're all trying to figure out is why is Emily Frisella on Earth?
I think that I am on Earth because, I always say like, because I don't want to say my dad, like, oh yeah, my mom and dad made me. Obviously, that's why I'm here. But I'm saying because I know I was trying to think, that's why I paused. I was trying to think of a way, like, how do I say
No,
it
I
without,
love it.
hey, my parents were really attracted to each other and now I'm here. Now, uh, but I really feel like I'm here to help the girls that were like me, that felt like they were the underdog, that felt like they
Mm,
were the chubby kid that
yeah.
got bullied and teased and that people, really kind of like counted out. I'm here for the dark horses that are going to, rise up and really try to, do something with their life because I think about that young Emily Frisella in fourth grade,
Mm,
chubby, short haircut, thick purple glasses. And I'm thinking like, how am I here? Like, it's just wild. And so I want to, my purpose, I think the reason I am truly here is to help girls like my nieces and
oh,
nephews to reach their full potential and realize
yes.
there's life is truly what you make it. And you really can. There's the reason the saying is you can do anything you dream. You can dream it, you can do it. That's true, because if you put that intention behind it and you really think about, like we talked about visualization earlier,
Mm-hmm.
and that passion, it truly can happen. And I want to show them like this can actually happen. It's really cool to me because my niece goes to a private Catholic school, and she's taken my cookbook to school to show her friends who her aunt is. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like, and that just means something. And my younger niece, she wants her aunt and uncle at her sporting events because they're proud of us. I
yeah.
want them to be able to like feel that later in their life.
Wow. Man, Emily, this has been so good. And what I'm really encouraged about is that, you and Andy found each other and you want the same for everybody.
Yeah.
You want us all to be our best.
Yeah.
And,
It's a lot of people don't have the experiences that we have. And so it's important to show people what is actually possible. And I think that's why both of us
yes.
passionate about what we do, because there's people that have never seen or they've never been exposed to any sort of like business success, anything in their
Yeah.
lives. And it's seeing people. And this is part of the importance of being transparent and sharing openly, is because then you can tell people like, hey, I was here and I did this, because then people can see themselves in that situation as
Yep.
well, instead of all the gurus online like, oh, I've always been a millionaire since I was 6 months old. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just wild.
Yeah. Well, Emily, how can people get a hold of you? How can they reach out to you?
The easiest is just like through Instagram, Emily Frisella, or my website, emilyfrisella.com.
Okay. Well, do you have any last words before we close this out?
No, I just want to thank you for having me on. It was just a blast, and I love the conversation, and I just
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. And, just thank you for all you do in your community, the Arete community, and just helping, everybody reach their best selves and finding their voice as well. So thank you
Aw.
so much.
Thank you, Emily. All right, you guys, go follow Emily Frisella and give her some love, and go to the Women in Business Conference in July. I've heard nothing but amazing things about that. And thank you so much for being on the show, Emily.
Thank you so much, Matt.
All right, see you guys next week.